Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the Apollo Twin X Duo interface, and I've done a video on this already, but it's going to be a little bit different today. I'm going to be talking about why I use it and why you may or may not want to use it. Now, I've actually already done a video talking about the Apollo Twin X Duo, but in that video I'm actually going over the buttons and how to use it. So that video is going to be really good for people who are just getting started with it. This video, I actually wrote down a bunch of pros and cons, and to be honest with you, it's mostly pros because I've had this for about 2 years now, and for my needs, it's really good. And the only con of this is that it's the Duo, so you only have 2 things that you can track as opposed to the, XP8, I think it's called, but that has 8. So let's say that you had a drummer and you wanted to mic up snares and kick drums and cymbals and stuff like that, instead of just having like an overhead mic, it'd be really good for that application. So this video is kind of going to be talking about whether or not you might benefit from having it and how I've benefited from having it. So we're going to jump right into that right now. When I think of the Apollo Twin X Duo, I think of someone who is trying to get really high quality recordings from their house using a really good preamp and having the ability to actually emulate other classic preamps. And for myself and how I use it, I'm just one person who produces their own music. So I just pretty much record everything with it on the microphone, but I'll also use the emulations and I'll get a really, really good sound and an analog sound right at home. So do you actually need to spend all this money on an interface? I don't think so. And again, this boils down to what your needs are and also a little bit how dedicated you are to getting really high quality recordings and having a professional sound. And you can really get really professional sounds from things like a Presonus audio box or a Scarlett 2i2, which are 2 interfaces that I've used in the past, and I swear by them. I think they're great. They're really good on the move, but I do think that obviously the universal audio stuff is just built way better, and they have the ability to actually emulate analog classics like the Avalon, the Neves, and stuff like that, and that's going to really take your sound quality to the next level. And how I use this, to be honest, is just tracking one thing at a time. I work like that. I actually came from producing hip-hop for myself and a couple other people locally, and I would pretty much do one thing at a time, and I would load up software instruments, but if I need to record a guitar in or something like that, I would just use a microphone and do one thing at a time, and then I'd move on to the bass. If I need to plug into an electric bass, it'd be on to that. So for me, this is the perfect thing because I'm making everything one thing at a time. So I think it's really good for tracking things individually and making music in a sort of stacked fashion instead of having something, with 8 channels where you're recording a whole band. Now, I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't talk about console and that whole interface, which is essentially like, let's say you have a DAW like Logic, or you have Ableton or Pro Tools or whatever it is. This is its own standalone unit within your computer that's actually going to allow you to track everything and hear everything in real time.
Hello.
And you have the ability to actually record what you tweak or not. So let's say that you have some sort of emulation. Let's say you have the Avalon on there and you're tweaking that and you have it sounding really good and you kind of know what you're doing. You figured out how to compress your vocals coming in right. You have the ability to actually track that in or just hear it in real time with almost no latency. And there's so much power in that because when you have character on your voice and you like how you sound when you're tracking stuff, it makes you have a better vocal performance. I think if you have a little bit of reverb on your voice, just a tiny bit, and you kind of just put yourself in this nice space before you even track it, and you're listening to yourself, it really helps you to have a good vocal performance, and I really do stand by that. So having that ability to kind of dial in your sound and get all the levels prior to coming into Logic and tweaking it and compressing it and hearing yourself with a little bit of reverb on your voice with 0 latency, that's huge, and honestly one of the biggest takeaways for the whole Apollo Universal Audio system. What I also really love about this interface is the ability to just plug in an instrument and it automatically switches to the high Z input. And from there, you can get stuff into Logic so fast. And that is really, really helpful for producers who are just trying to get their ideas from their mind into Logic or whatever their DAW is as fast as possible. So you can just plug it in, set your levels. Let's say you're plugging in a bass and you want to record it in, and you literally just set your level, boom, you press the R button and you're recording, and it's in there. So it's just kind of unbeatable for the person who's really trying to put stuff together in an efficient manner. Now, most interfaces are going to allow you to plug in monitors on the back. What they don't allow you to do most of the time is to actually swap between the monitors and the headphones, which is very, very helpful. So the button furthest to the right that says monitor, you're actually going to be able to swap from your headphones to the monitors. You also have the ability to mute the monitors right there. So it's so quick. Like, that's what I love about this interface. Everything is so quick. You literally want to hear it out loud, boom, you click the unmute button. Make sure also that your microphone is muted, because if that's not muted in console, it's going to make this really loud screeching sound, and it is just painful to listen to. Now, this ties into the monitoring section, but having the ability to actually switch it into mono so quick, to listen to everything back in mono, to make sure that it sounds good across phones and also in stereo and car stereos and stuff like that, that's very, very helpful. And most people actually mix mostly in mono for the most part, and then they'll swap it into stereo later on so they can get a feel for what it sounds like in the stereo field as well. But that is very, very helpful as well. That ties into the monitoring thing. Now, this isn't going to be a crazy long video, but I do want to talk about real quick the ability to roll off the low end. Again, I don't want this to be a video about each individual button, but I'm just telling you why I use this interface and why it's so important to me. Basically, you can roll off the low end before tracking your vocals or your guitar, and what that does is it saves you time in post. So when you're going in and you're actually mixing your project, you're going to see when you pull up your EQ, of course you're going to have to do some deductive EQ in other areas or additive EQ or whatever the situation is, but you can see that the low end has been rolled off, and that's very, very cool, very, very time consuming sometimes to roll that off. I mean, it's really not, but at the same time, it's nice that it's there. You can roll it off. You can get a nice sound quickly. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go crazy into depth. I just wanted to give you guys my experience using this, and I've made some pretty cool songs like this.
You're playing games with my heart now. Said you left for some dude, but I'm older and wise now, and understand you're true.
Obviously, there's a lot done in post to these things to make them sound that good, but I'm telling you, the floor is at such a good spot so that when you bring everything up in post, this interface is doing so much for you so that you're not really having to do a ton of work after the fact. So I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. It helps a ton, or like the video, whatever you choose to do. Totally fine with me, or do nothing. Also fine with me. Not encouraged, but also fine with me. Check out the videos talking about this interface and running through the buttons. I think it's called the Apollo Twin X Duo Getting Started. That's going to really help you get started with it. So yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this. And until next time, peace.